unexpected but a strategic move. President of the Philippines has cited stable ties with China. On his recent 3-day trip to Beijing, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. met with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on the visit, where the two leaders agreed to set up a direct communication channel to handle South China Sea disputes peacefully.
You're also the first foreign leader that we receive here in China this year. All of these speak volumes about the closeness of China-Philippines relations. It also shows that our two sides both have an important position in each other's diplomatic agenda.
I am very gratified for you. It has now become my responsibility, but certainly my privilege, to be able to continue on that legacy, to continue to promote the friendship between China and the Philippines.
In a video address released by his office on Wednesday, Marcos said that the two sides discussed what can be done to move forward and avoid future mistakes and misunderstandings. In the joint statement released post the meet, the two sides signed 14 agreements which are aimed at cooling tensions and boosting economic cooperation. The leaders also reaffirmed that they will respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Both leaders also agreed to resume talks on oil and gas exploration in the South China Sea, along with cooperation on areas including solar, wind, electric vehicles and nuclear power. The Philippines has previously raised concerns over reported Chinese construction activities and the quote-unquote swarming of Beijing's vessels in disputed waters of the South China Sea. Now, on the economic cooperation front, China agreed to let in more Philippine imports as it aims for bilateral trade to revert to pre-pandemic volume. The talks come as both China and the Philippines aim to mend ties which were adversely impacted after Manila sought an arbitral ruling against Beijing in 2016. The ruling sought to invalidate China's expansive claims in the strategically important region. For more on this, Dawn McLean-Gale is joining us live from Manila. Dawn, welcome to WION.
Thank you, Shivan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dawn, I need to start off right away. Is it now going to be called West Philippine Sea after the meeting? Or are we sticking to South China Sea?
Well, we have to understand that for the purpose of this particular visit, the main purpose reflects, of course, the understanding of realpolitik is that we cannot change and choose our neighbors, but we have to coexist despite the tumultuous nature of the region. So the main purpose of this visit was not to find an overnight solution, but to maintain bilateral relations and communicate to avoid miscalculations that may really escalate the already volatile regional security architecture of Southeast Asia. So the call to set up the lines of communication, the direct lines for conflict mitigation in the West Philippine Sea is of great importance for that particular objective. But we have to understand, despite the rosy picture that has been shown, there is a great inconsistency between what China says at the political level and what it does on the ground.
Dawn, now China has also said that it is ready to resume oil and gas talks with the Philippines. How do you feel this will impact Philippines' relationship with the US? Things had just started to look better with Marcos taking the office.
Well, we have to understand that, first of all, China has been seeking to alter the status quo of the West Philippine Sea to its favor. Recent trends include reports of reclamation activities and other forms of gray zone tactics. And this comes at the expense of Philippine sovereignty and sovereign rights. But of course, being a sovereign state with legitimate interests, the Philippines rejects such posturing from China, as we can see from the diplomatic notes and statements. And it is in fact in the best interest of the Philippines to create a conducive external environment in the region for security and development. Now, factoring in the U.S., as you have rightfully mentioned, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has specifically underscored the significance of the U.S. alliance, U.S.-Philippine alliance to Philippine foreign security and development. However, but we have to understand what I call call proactive autonomy is that Manila tends to focus on the point that this particular alliance will not be the sole determinant of its external relations. So thus it will also be in the interest of the Philippines to forge close relations with China and to diversify strategic partnerships such as with India as well. So this is what we can see as a particular pattern in Philippine foreign policy under President Marcos Jr.
Do you think Philippines can carry out a balancing act between the US and China?
Well, you were absolutely right. This is kind of problematic, of course, given the current situation in the region. As China continues to rise, its rise has been coupled with assertive maneuvers as well. However, at the other end of the bargain, we see the United States seeking to maintain its position as well. Now, the Philippines, as a middle power, continues to project a certain level of autonomy from both sides as it seeks to manage relations with both sides. However, because it is not in the interest of Manila to fall deeper into the brewing power competition between the U.S. and China. As you're aware, there was a close encounter between the U.S. and Chinese jets in the South China Sea. The new foreign minister of China as well adds new uncertainty towards relations with the Philippines. And as I've mentioned earlier, the ambiguity between political statements and on-ground reality is something that the Philippines needs to factor in. But overall, the Philippines will maintain its alliance with the United States. It will seek to strengthen it for the Philippine position, its territorial defense and robust diplomatic networks. But at the same time, it would have to proactively engage with its most powerful immediate neighbor, which is China. The Philippines under Marcos Jr. believes that it would not be in Manila's interest to really try to provoke the situation by picking sides, at least. So as we can see, President Marcos has always emphasized that he would try to be friends with all. But then again, international politics is a lot more complicated than that, and we would have to see how this would play out in the months and perhaps years to come. But if I may shortly add, given, of course, China's track record of interstate engagements, we would have to verify, of course, and not just believe these political statements from Beijing.
Thanks so much, Don. Now, Philippines has already imported the BrahMos missiles from India to guard their coast, and that is essentially against China. But if they're able to carry out a balancing act between US and China, I think they are going to set a new standard of diplomacy. Thank you so much for all those updates, and we'll be in touch for more.
Thank you so much.